The history of poker is a complex but interesting one. While no concrete date or author for its creation exists, the game has its roots in 1,000 years of history. Historians often contest the creation of poker with potential links existing in Asian and Middle Eastern societies. The modern version of poker we know comes from 14th century Germany with the game Pochenspiel. Over the course of history, the game evolved and spread throughout the world, and like all things, made its way to the shores of America during the 19th century. It flowed from New Orleans in Louisiana up the Mississippi due to its popularity amongst riverboat crews, carrying goods to the new frontiers. This game, much like the world around it, changed and molded over time, with rules becoming standard across the country and spreading throughout the world to create a game for those looking to make bets, or for a game to test their ability to bluff and outsmart their opponents. In 2024, an indie developer took this relatively simple game and used it to defy God. Alright, that was a lot to take in, so let's just step back for a moment. Balatro is a roguelike deck building game that was released on the 20th of February 2024 to PC and all major consoles. This is the brainchild of Canadian-based pseudonymous multidisciplinary game developer and artist LocalThunk, and was published by PlayStack, an indie development studio from London. After a relatively small 3-year development cycle, the game received unfathomable amounts of praise. High scores from every review outlet, 208,401 wish lists by the game's launch date, and $600,000 in revenue on the launch day alone. By the end of the year, the game had sold 3.5 million units. With the mobile release on the 26th of September, the game continued to grow immensely, and now sits at over 5 million sales and millions of dollars in gross revenue. The enormity of Balatro's popularity reached its peak at the 2024 Game Awards, where it was in the top brass of video game award contenders for that year, making it the first solo indie developed game to be nominated for Game of the Year. It was nominated alongside massive games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Black Myth Wukong, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree for some stupid reason. This is all to say that Balatro has had its praises sung to death by now, not even accounting for the numerous videos about the game. But even with all of this, if you've never played the game or engaged with it at all, you're probably thinking, so what? This game doesn't look that good. Like, sure, it might be fun, but a Game of the Year contender? Really? Well, yes, it is that good, and I'd argue it puts a majority of games released that year to shame, if not all of them. But how does it achieve this, you ask, reclined in your preferred seating arrangement? Or not at all. I don't judge. While the gameplay systems look and act in complex ways, they're simplified to make an experience that anyone can engage with on numerous skill levels, making every way of play viable. Simple, but complex. Let's start by going over the gameplay in its most basic form, and then covering the elements listed here in this order. Trust me when I say it'll make things much easier if I do it this way. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. How do you play Balatro? Now at this point, when I say how do you play Balatro, I'm talking about it in an extremely low level way. Forget about jokers, additions, seals, enhancements, and other external factors. I'm focusing specifically on how the player interacts with the game on a fundamental level. Understood? Okay, let's get into it. You start a run by choosing your deck and stake. These both have different effects we'll get into later. When starting the game, you're given a deck of 52 cards, which houses a set of cards from 2 to ace in 4 different suits: hearts, spades, diamonds, and clubs. The game is structured by antes, which contain a maximum of 3 rounds in each: small blind, big blind, and boss blind. Each of these blinds has a score requirement you must reach, most of the time, in order to win the round. Each ante increases the score requirements, and in order to win Balatro, you must beat ante 8. When in a blind, you will draw 8 cards to your hand to start. You have a starting amount of hands and discards you can perform to play hands and get better cards respectively. There are many hands you can play, and it's important to build around a certain hand in order to maximize your score. these hands include all the ones you see in a regular game of poker, including 3 secret poker hands you unlock through playing them. These include 5 of a kind, Flush House, and the most powerful hand of all, the elusive Flush 5. The 2 most important things you need to look out for during a game is chips and mult. Chips are the base score that your hand makes and increases with each card played. Mult, as the name would suggest, is the number that determines how much your chips are going to be multiplied. This is beyond crucial for playing Balatro, as you need to increase the amount of mult you generate in each hand in order to catch up to and surpass the ever-increasing blind requirements. At the end of each round, you're rewarded with money based on the blind, hands, and discards remaining, as well as interest for every $5 you have. And that's how a regular game of Balatro goes. Sort of. We still have to talk about everything else. The stake is basically the difficulty setting. Each stake adds a unique modifier to the run as well as any other modifiers that precede it. Let's run through them quickly. White stake. Literally nothing changes. Red stake. Small blinds give no reward money. This can make early rounds a struggle to get through trying to afford important jokers and other things, but quickly becomes less of an issue once you build your money. Green stake. Makes the score requirements for each ante ramp faster. If you're unprepared or lucky, you could quickly fall behind. Black stake. Jokers in shops or booster packs have a 30% chance to have an eternal sticker. Eternal stickers mean a joker cannot be sold or destroyed, which can really inhibit your playstyle. Blue stake. -1 discard. This is such a meaningless change that even LocalThunk is going to change it in the next update. Purple stake. It's green stake, but it ramps faster. Orange stake. Jokers in shops or booster packs have a 30% chance to have a perishable sticker. This makes any joker with this sticker debuffed after 5 rounds, which means its ability won't trigger. This offers a particularly interesting play interaction. You could take a powerful joker that's perishable, but you have to figure out what you're going to do once it's debuffed. And finally, the hardest stake, gold stake. Jokers in shops or booster packs have a 30% chance to have a rental sticker. Rental jokers cost $1 to buy, but have the downside of costing $3 per round. In the early game, this can be a detriment as you don't have much money to play with, and can end up going negative, which is difficult to overcome. Now individually, these modifiers seem avoidable if not entirely superfluous, but keep in mind with each stake you're not just dealing with the effect of that particular stake, you're also contending with the previous stake effects, which makes gold stake a nightmare to deal with as you try to construct your build while having to deal with all these different joker types and extremely fast scaling blind requirements. Oh hey, speaking of blinds, as mentioned previously, each ante contains 3 rounds which consist of a small blind, big blind, and boss blind. Very quickly, the small blind and big blinds just multiply the score requirement by 1 and 1.5 respectively. These aren't a challenge and can be beaten without much thought if you're well prepared. The really important blinds are the boss blinds. These appear at the end of each ante and have a unique effect on the gameplay. There are 28 boss blinds which are chosen at random for each ante. From top to bottom we have the hook. This forces 2 cards to be discarded per hand played. This doesn't impact gameplay as much as other boss blinds, especially if you draw a good first hand. But if you use up all your discards and have to play hands to draw new cards, you could lose important cards you're keeping in your hand, which can lead to a loss if your luck isn't the best. The ox sets your money to 0 if you play your most played hand. This is really annoying if you put all your eggs into one basket and you have no way of beating the blind otherwise. It does have a niche benefit if your money is in the negative, as it still sets your money to 0, meaning you can get out of the red easily if you happen to land on this blind. Still, this is extremely rare because going negative is only ever self-imposed. The house. Your first hand is drawn face down. Annoying if a good card is drawn first, but you can just discard these cards and draw a new hand, or make a good guess. The wall. Super big blind! The score requirement is multiplied by 4. Not the hardest thing to deal with, but can be a bit of a hurdle if you encounter it early on. The wheel. 1 in 7 cards get drawn face down during the round. It's essentially a continuous version of the house, except you can often just guess what card is drawn face down by changing the card order from rank to suit or vice versa, making it fairly easy. The arm. Decreases the level of the played poker hand by 1. This makes building levels during early antes a struggle, especially if it takes multiple hands to beat the blind. The club, the goad, the widow, and the head. Each of these boss blinds individually debuff club, spade, diamond, and heart cards respectively. I'm grouping them like this because they functionally do the same thing. These boss blinds aren't in any way difficult and just force you to discard down to find cards from other suits. Even later in the game when you likely have mostly cards of one suit, by then you'll have enough mult generation to bypass them without much difficulty. The fish draws cards face down after each hand played. Most of the time you'll be aiming to beat the boss blind on the first hand, so it's not that difficult if you're strong enough, but can still trip you up during early antes. The psychic forces the player to play 5 cards. Most of the time you'll be playing 5 cards regardless, and even if you're doing a high card build, you can tack on 4 other cards without punishment. The water starts the player with 0 discards. Annoying if you draw a bad first hand, but as long as you have enough hands you can easily search for more cards while also contributing to your score. The manacle, -1 hand size. If you're looking for a specific card in your deck, this boss blind can lower the chances of finding it, but ultimately it's nothing you can't handle. The eye prevents repeated hand types from being played. If you encounter this while you're weak and your best hand type isn't good enough, you can struggle to scrape by, especially during the mid game. The mouth forces only 1 hand type to be played during the round. This is the reverse of the eye, but luckily you can choose the type of hand you're forced into. This can trip you up if you only have the ability to play your strongest hand once and you can't play it again, or if you can't find it by discarding. The plant. All face cards are debuffed. This is by far one of the most brutal boss blinds to encounter. Majority of the strongest builds in Balatro are made up of face cards and the jokers that make them immensely powerful. Encountering this is often a death sentence, especially late into runs where the score requirements are way too high for regular deck builds to reach without a good source of mult. The serpent draws 3 cards after playing or discarding regardless of hand size. This is the most helpful boss blind by far. You can choose to discard 1 card and gain 3, meaning if you have 4 discards you can hold more cards in your hand than normal and find powerful cards you're searching for. The pillar. Cards played previously during this ante are debuffed. Beating this boss blind is rough if all your powerful cards have already been used before, but if your deck is strong enough you can make it through without much effort by discarding. The needle. You can only play 1 hand. Unlike the other boss blinds, this one doesn't increase the base score requirement the same as other boss blinds. Being forced to play only 1 hand can be difficult early on when you're at your weakest, but it's quite easy later on. The tooth. Lose $1 per card played. Annoying if you're trying to generate money early on, especially if your preferred hand type uses more cards. The flint. Base chips and mult are halved for the rest of the round. If you're barely scraping by when you encounter this boss blind, it can completely kill you. Later on, however, it just means your number is smaller, which isn't fun for anyone. The mark. All face cards are drawn face down. While it's easier to identify your face cards on this boss blind, in some instances it can trip you up. Let's say you're trying to play a 5 of a kind with kings, but you accidentally select a queen. You'll instead play a 4 of a kind, which is still strong, but later in the game it can put you in a pretty dangerous situation. Finally, we have the 5 finisher boss blinds, which only appear at the end of a run at ante 8, acting as the final challenge for the player. These are Amber Acorn, flips and shuffles all joker cards. This isn't the most difficult to deal with, but it can mess up your score due to the nature of how Balatro activates jokers from left to right. Jokers that rely on being in a certain position, or would benefit from activating first, like flat mult jokers, could be messed up, resulting in a lower score. Verdant Leaf. All cards are debuffed until 1 joker is sold. This can stunt your run if you have to sell an important joker to beat the blind. If you get really unlucky, you might never see that joker again, meaning you can death spiral really quickly. Violet Vessel. Super duper big blind! The score requirement is multiplied by 6. Like the wall, it's not the hardest to deal with, but can end your run if you're only scraping by. Crimson Heart. Disables a random joker after every played hand. Can be difficult to play around, especially if it disables your really powerful joker, but if you can play some throwaway hands, you can roll the right combination to beat it. This is also the finisher boss blind at the end of the tutorial you play during your first run, as it's crucial to learn how to adapt to losing jokers. Finally, Cerulean Bell. Forces 1 card to always be selected each hand. If you've got a deck of entirely 1 card, this is a very easy boss blind, but if you've got a deck with variety, you might just have to play a weak hand and hope it lands on the card you want. Boss blinds are one of Balatro's most interesting mechanics. Individually, the debuffs they present are mostly negligible, if not outright helpful. The challenge they present is entirely down to the player's knowledge of the game's mechanics. If the player doesn't anticipate a future boss blind, depending on the type of build they're creating, they can be stopped in their tracks completely. Each boss blind is expertly implemented to hit the weak points of every kind of playstyle, which creates an interesting gameplay interaction with the player. The small blind and big blinds on the other hand aren't really interesting, only existing to give the player opportunities to generate more money and fix their deck. But let's say you just don't want to do them. You can always choose to press that little red button to skip the blind, and in return, you'll earn. If you want to take a risk during your run to increase the power of your deck, you can choose to skip the small blind or big blind for one of the 24 tags available. While these offer a wide variety of benefits, it comes at the cost of not being able to earn money from the blind, and not being able to visit the shop. Some of the tag effects are instant and others require you to be in the shop. While most tags can be found during Ante 1, some of the more powerful ones require you to have reached Ante 2 before they can appear. I won't go into too much detail on these as they're all pretty self-explanatory, but I'll provide additional detail if necessary. Joker tags. Both give a free Joker of a certain rarity in the next shop. This can be helpful early on if you don't have much money to afford Jokers, and can help get some super strong / expensive Jokers for free if you're lucky. However, top up is special because it creates 2 Jokers without having to visit the shop, which can help if you're looking for better Jokers going into a hard round. Edition tags. The next Joker in the shop is free, and has one of 4 editions in the game which carry different effects. We'll discuss these later. Money tags. These tags help with generating more money much quicker, either doubling it, giving $5 per blind skip, or an additional 25 after beating a boss blind. Hand and garbage are quite different as they give money based on the amount of hands or discards used. This is great for mid-game after you've played for a good while. Shop tags. These alter the shop in various ways, adding an additional voucher, we'll get to those later, making the first reroll free, or just making everything in the initial shop free, except rerolls and vouchers. Extremely useful if you're trying to build up your playstyle early on, or just later in a run trying to find specific vouchers. The only outlier is D6, as a free reroll probably isn't worth it and can just be replaced with a Joker if needed. Misc tags. I call them Misc because they don't fit in with the other tag types. Effects include rerolling the boss blind, upgrading a certain poker hand by 3 levels, increasing your hand size for the next round, or earning a tag which doubles the next collected tag aside from itself. Tags accentuate the freedom of choice in Balatro. There's a good mix of niche benefits as well as genuinely helpful effects that give the player much more choice in how they play. The risk of taking a powerful tag in return for falling behind the scaling of the boss blind as well as missing the shop adds an additional level of tension which can shake up the gameplay loop drastically. It's a deceptively even-handed system. It makes both the player and game stronger and weaker, but it can vary based on luck, which can make skipping the push you need to win, or the death of your run entirely. Am I forgetting something? Oh yeah, booster pack tags. These allow you to instantly open one of the game's many booster packs, which we will discuss now. Like all card games, Balatro has booster packs. These offer the player a chance for different kinds of cards based on the variety of packs you open, and can be used immediately. Although unlike real life, these booster packs cost a couple dollars and not a mortgage payment. Each pack comes in 3 variations. Normal, these cost $4 and allow the player to select one of 3 cards. Jumbo, costs $6 and allows the player to select one of 5 cards. Mega, costs $8 and lets the player select 2 of 4 to 5 cards. Like most things in this game, it's a gamble to open these booster packs. You could land on a game-changing card, or receive nothing useful and waste your money. Like real life. The most basic form of booster packs is standard packs. These allow you to add playing cards to your deck and give you the chance to find playing cards with special modifiers. Let's go through these before moving on to the other card types. Modifiers are, as the name suggests, modifications that give various benefits. Enhanced cards give benefits when played or held in hand. They are distinguishable from regular cards by their unique visual appearance, like making the card gold, glass, or even stone. Benefits from playing or holding these cards include more chips, malt, or money. The notable exception is wild cards, which ignore suits entirely, which is helpful for flush hands if you're missing one card. Seals also give benefits when played or held in hand. Visually they resemble the classic wax seals imprinted onto letters during the Middle Ages. Seals can earn you more money, re-trigger the played card, or create a tarot or planet card when discarded or held at the end of the round respectively. Additions are unique for being applicable to playing cards and jokers. These give your cards a unique filter denoting its addition. These give the classic extra chips or malt with the exception of the negative addition, which is exclusive to jokers. This makes a joker not take up any space in your joker slots, which is immensely helpful for building a stronger roster. Modifiers add a lot of welcome depth to Balatro. Next to jokers they offer immense variety in how you build your deck and fit any playstyle. The already symbiotic relationship between your playing cards and jokers is massively increased by their inclusion, and create combos that make passing boss blinds a breeze and building a deck early on much easier. The problem is getting an addition from a standard pack is quite rare, and you likely don't have a lot of money to search for them. No worries, just open one of these packs and you'll find Tarot cards are far and away the most powerful consumables in the game, helping save your runs and build your deck. Each tarot interacts with a different aspect of the game, allowing you to change your card suits, apply different enhancements to your cards, create more consumables, more money, create more jokers, and interact with two new mechanics, destroying your cards and increasing their rank. The Hanged Man card allows you to destroy 2 selected cards, really helpful early on for fixing your deck and even later if you want to have a smaller but powerful deck. The Strength card lets you increase the rank of 2 selected cards by 1, really helpful if you're trying to make more face cards at the start, which can be done by using it on the 10s, giving you 4 more face cards early on if you're lucky. The Wheel of Fortune is a favourite of the community, allowing you to gamble for different additions on your jokers, because if you're not gambling then are you really playing Balatro? Death is by far the most powerful tarot card. If you use this while having 2 cards selected, it'll convert the left card into the right card, allowing you to easily make multiple copies of a really powerful card. Outside of jokers, tarot cards make Balatro one of the most unique games. The ability to change the output of your card draw is invaluable, as you work to build a stronger deck with various enhancements, less cards, and other various changes you make for your specific playstyle. But if tarots aren't strong enough, you could always use Spectral cards are very unique. Unlike tarot cards which serve specific functions, spectral cards more often than not are used circumstantially. Looking to work towards a single type of card, Ouija can convert all cards in your hand to a single rank at the cost of -1 hand size. Need to build your early game economy and thin your deck? Immolate gives you $20 while destroying 5 cards in your hand. Trying to make all cards in your deck a single suit? Use Sigil. Looking for powerful playing cards? Use one of these spectral cards to get a number of random enhanced playing cards at the cost of destroying 1 random playing card in your hand, or just create one yourself with Aura. Other spectral cards can be used in more situations, such as the seal cards to give your playing cards seals, Cryptid to duplicate your powerful playing cards, and the variety of Joker spectral cards to help build a powerful deck early on. The 2 most elusive spectral cards are the Black Hole, which upgrades every poker hand by 1, and another, which I will save for later. While fairly rare to find, spectral packs and by extension spectral cards can often be the tide turner in a run. They tip the scale of power so much in your favour, but counteract that with downsides, or remain out of reach due to their rarity. Personally, I love Trance, which lets you add a blue seal to your playing card. This is great because if this card is in your hand at the end of the round, you can get one of many. Planet cards each correspond to one of the planets in our solar system, and most importantly, one of the hand types you can play. When you select a planet card, you can upgrade the base chips and malt of the associated hand. Like most upgrades, this is absolutely crucial for outscaling the blinds, allowing you to reach the required score much quicker. The 3 secret poker hands also have their own planet cards, but these require you to have played the hand during the run in order to encounter them. This increases the pool of planet cards available through packs, tarots, and blue seals, which can make finding specific planet cards more challenging. But with all card packs, what planet cards you get are random, with a few exceptions. However, like most things in this game, there is a workaround. Want to get one type of planet card for a hand you're consistently playing? Just invest in her. Vouchers are special consumables used instantly upon purchase in the shop. Their effects are permanent throughout the run, and new vouchers are stocked after defeating each boss blind. Each of these have an initial version that must be bought before accessing the stronger version. I'm going to speed through these because they're mostly self-explanatory, with each of them boosting a different aspect of gameplay. These effects range from increasing the amount of cards you can buy, reducing store prices, increased chance for cards with enhancements, lower shop reroll costs, increased consumable space, hand size, the number of hands or discards, increased tarot or planet card frequency in the shop, raising the interest cap, or an additional joker slot. This doesn't mean there aren't some unique vouchers. As I alluded to before, Telescope makes it so the planet card associated with your most played hand always appears in planet card packs. Once you have Telescope, you can purchase Observatory, which makes each planet card in your consumable area give 1.5 times malt for their specified poker hand. Hieroglyph and Petroglyph decrease the ante by 1, as well as your number of hands or discards. This is extremely useful for buying time to build up your deck if you start falling behind. Director's Cut and Retcon allow you to reroll boss blinds, meaning that you can completely bypass a boss blind that would outright kill your run, provided you have the money. Omen Globe, which you can access after buying Crystal Ball, allows spectral cards to sometimes appear in tarot card packs, giving you more chances to get powerful spectral cards. Magic Trick and Illusion are so comically bad that they aren't worth mentioning. Though I will say, talking about Magic Trick has got me thinking about playing cards. Where do you store playing cards? In a... Your deck is very important. Don't giggle, this is serious. Choosing a deck means more than acquiring the necessary cards to play, it also changes the way you play. There are 15 different decks and each deck has a different effect. Some of these are self-explanatory. Red or blue deck, +1 discard or hand each round. Yellow deck, start with an extra $10. The rest, however, are much weirder and shake up the gameplay in unique and interesting ways. Green deck, gives money for remaining hands and discards at the end of each round, but removes your ability to earn interest. Removing interest gets rid of some worry about making purchases early on, as you're not worrying about creating a stable fund that accrues over each round. Rather, you can make bigger purchases, and your focus instead shifts to making it through while using as few hands and discards as possible. Black deck, gives an extra joker slot but -1 hand every round. While an extra joker slot is strong, it can be absolutely brutal during the early rounds, especially if you have to start playing hands as a substitute for discards. Magic deck, start with the Crystal Ball voucher and 2 copies of the full tarot card. Good if you're trying to build your deck towards a specific playstyle, or even thin it early on. Nebula deck, start with the Telescope voucher but -1 consumable slot. Very similar to Magic deck with how it incentivizes early progression into a specific playstyle, but can bottleneck that progression due to the removal of a consumable slot, making it harder to juggle multiple consumables until you get a voucher. Ghost deck, chance for spectral cards to appear in the shop as well as starting with a Hex spectral card. Great if you get a good joker super early and have no other jokers, but otherwise it's a free $2. Abandoned deck, start the run with no face cards. A hard deck if you don't get lucky, as most jokers revolve around face cards, but there is a specific joker that can trivialize this deck, and you can always use tarot cards to get some face cards early on. Checkered deck, start the run with 26 spades and 26 hearts in the deck. This removes club and diamond cards from your deck and replaces them with spades and hearts. One of my personal favorites and great for people who love playing flushes. It's pretty even-handed and you can easily change your deck to fit either suit that you prefer or are strongest in. Zodiac deck, start the run with the Tarot Merchant, Planet Merchant and Overstock vouchers. An immensely powerful deck allowing for immense customization of your deck as well as the possibility for further jokers to be discovered. Painted deck, +2 hand size but -1 joker slot. This one is kinda tricky as you're spread pretty thin as far as viable joker pairings you can build towards, but can make early game a bit easier by giving you access to more of your cards at once. Anaglyph deck, get a double tag after defeating a boss blind. Very useful if you can afford to skip a blind after the first round, but very risky on top of not providing any other benefits. Plasma deck, balances chips and malt by adding them, dividing the resulting number by 2, and calculating the final score by multiplying the 2 numbers together. If that made no sense to you, then you can just read this equation. This deck is far and away the strongest deck in Balatro. Early on it can breeze through most antes without any jokers, making it much easier to save money and build interest, but during the late game it breaks the entire game in half. That doesn't mean there isn't skill to use it. If you play a bad hand, it's still a bad hand and might even result in a lower score than it would be otherwise. The Balatro Wiki, which has been an immensely helpful point of reference during my research, has an entire mathematical proof showing how balancing chips and malt is almost always stronger. Let me try and pretend to understand it. To start with, Plasma deck functions primarily off of what's known as AMGM inequality. This states that the arithmetic mean of non-negative real numbers is always greater than or equal to their geometric mean. The difference between chips and malt is defined as chips minus malt. If we expand the difference, we get difference squared equals chips squared plus malt squared minus 2cm, which in this case is the normal score before balancing. Because this expression is always greater or equal to 0, the balance score in return will always be greater than or equal to the normal hand score. They're only equal if chips equals malt, which is expressed as chips plus malt over 2 squared is greater than or equal to cm. This, however, doesn't assume rounding. Balancing rounds half down can end up in a lower score, such as when the difference between chips and malt is 1, like in this expression. There's additional math that looks at the effective ratio between chips and malt required to play Plasma Deck effectively, and if you want to read that, the Balatro Wiki has a detailed explanation on the subject, but in short, it's a 5.8 ratio between both. Wow, this got off topic. Where was I? Oh, right. Erratic Deck. All of your playing cards are randomized. This can create a game in which you have a completely trash deck of a bunch of sporadic numbers, a fairly even deck with maybe a few more face cards, or just an entire deck of the 10 of spades. Definitely one to try out if you're finding the gameplay to get a bit stale. Technically, that's all the regular decks in the game, but there are an additional 20 challenge decks used in the challenge mode. As the name suggests, these decks offer different challenges for the player to beat by applying different modifiers to the run. These can range from a fun time to the utterly cruel Jokerless challenge that I sure as hell aren't going to beat anytime soon. With that, we've covered all of Balatro's basic mechanics. Now you know the many ways you can customize your deck to make it stronger, as well as how you can tune it to fit your playstyle. I'm joking, look at the runtime, obviously we haven't covered everything. There's still one more extremely important thing left to discuss. After all, what's a deck of cards without... Jokers are by far one of the most important aspects of Balatro. Without a doubt, they are the main pull of the game, helped massively by the wonderful art done by LocalThunk and also Lumpy Touch. Jokers are more than just pretty visuals and an award-winning smile. They offer a multitude of benefits and utilities, making them essential for late game runs, unless you're Dr. Spected and can rack up consecutive Jokerless wins like it's nothing. Base Balatro has a nice and even 50 Jokers, with 45 of them requiring you to complete various milestones or objectives to unlock during regular play, which helps incentivize experimentation. It also means that I will not be listing literally every single Joker. It's way too tedious and entirely superfluous, with a few exceptions that I'll get to at the end. Before I can explain Jokers, it's important to learn how a Joker is activated. There are a few types of Joker activation criteria. Independent. The Joker acts without relation to the hand type played. On scoring. The Joker is activated every time the requirements are met during a played hand. On played. The Joker activates regardless of if the played hand scores or not. On discard. The Joker activates when you discard types of cards or an amount of cards. On blind select. The Joker is activated when you select a blind. Mixed. The Joker has a mix of different requirements to activate. They could require a played hand to improve and get stronger, but otherwise act independent of that hand in any other context. Passive. These Jokers are the most confusing. In general, they don't have a specific activation criteria, though some of them do, but it's not really attached to your played poker hand. While some of them affect how you play a poker hand, it's not required for the Joker to start working. A lot of these Jokers affect other parts of the game, such as the shop. Now, unlike consumables, Jokers really don't have an official way of categorizing themselves outside of rarity, which for our purposes can be summed up with stronger Jokers are usually harder to find. I'll be using the categories from the web game Balatrodle, created by Tarik Kurgen, which is Wordle mixed with Balatro. It's pretty cool, so check it out. Back on topic, these categories split Jokers based on what function they provide. 3 of these are practically the same, so we'll start with them. Plus malt / chip Jokers. These are the easiest Jokers to explain. These add malt, chips, or both when they are activated. A lot of these are very easy to find and can help you through the early blinds. X-malt Jokers. These Jokers multiply your current malt. This type of Joker is immensely strong, though not that much if your current malt is pretty small, or don't have re-triggers. Speaking of which, re-trigger / copy Jokers. Simple but unfathomably powerful. This type of Joker can re-trigger different playing cards, entire hands, or copy the ability of another Joker. These pair immensely well with X-malt Jokers, and as such are the popular match during high score runs. Creation Jokers. These can generate different consumables or even Jokers when activated. Very helpful if you're struggling with money or need a consistent way to generate additional consumables, playing cards, or find Jokers. Note that if your consumable and Joker slots are full, they won't work. Economy Jokers allow you to earn additional money when meeting a certain criteria. Some of these are the best way to passively earn money during a run. These Jokers literally pay for themselves within a few blinds. Hand / discard Jokers affects the amount of hands / discards you can play or makes playing hands easier. Note that while some other jokers may require you to play hands or use discards, they are not hand/discard jokers, as they don't add to your amount of hands or discards, nor do they make directly playing hands easier. Other jokers. Everything else falls into this category. The different effects cover different aspects of the game's design. This can range from disabling boss blinds, getting a double tag for selling the joker, doubling listed probabilities, giving you a free reroll in each shop, and even allowing jokers and consumables to appear multiple times throughout a run, or even in the same booster pack. These jokers range on a scale from highly specific use cases to passive improvements and pair well with different jokers or even entire decks. And that's all the different kinds of jokers. As you can see, wait, hold on, we're forgetting something important. Remember in the spectral card section when I talked about that elusive card? Well, that card is called the Soul, and when you find that immensely rare card inside a booster pack, provided you have a joker slot available, you can use it to create one of the 5. These are powerful jokers, extremely hard to come by but worth picking up 99% of the time. This quintet of clowns have extremely helpful abilities, making them viable in a variety of playstyles. Let's go through each of them, what their abilities are, and even their history. Canio, the uxoricidal actor. When you destroy a face card, this joker gains 1x mult. Canio is based off of a character of the same name from the Italian opera Pagliacci. Created by Ruggero Leoncavallo, this tells the story of Canio, an actor who on stage murders his wife Netta and a man named Silvio whom she was having an affair with. This joker consistently pairs well with the Hanged Man Tarot, which can give you 2x mult in a single use and is easy to come by, meaning you can scale it really fast if you have a bunch of disposable cards. This joker is mixed. It activates independent of what type of hand you play, but requires destroying cards to be useful. Triboulet, the Unknown Jester. Played kings and queens each give 2x mult when scored. There are at least 3 jesters named Triboulet throughout history. One was a playwright serving René of Anjou, the second served Louis XII, and the third served again Louis XII and Francis I. Since the second Triboulet died during Louis XII's reign and was replaced by another Triboulet, it can be confusing on if they're the same person or different people. Triboulet's most famous story is one where he slaps the king's butt, managing to weasel his way out of execution by claiming he thought the king was the queen, though the validity of this is questionable. Since kings and queens synergize well with many jokers, it makes Triboulet a keeper, especially if you can play multiple kings or queens at once, since this joker activates whenever one of those cards is scored. Yorick, the Unseen Tragedy. This joker gains 1x mult for every 23 cards discarded. A character in William Shakespeare's Hamlet, he is the dead court jester remembered fondly by the play's title character as Horatio when his body is dug up in Act 5 Scene 1 of the play. The number 23 is in reference to his 23-year burial. This fellow of infinite jest is one of the best scaling jokers you can find. Since discarding is something done passively, it's great to find early on, but a bit harder to work with later into a run. Varied use case, but still worth using if you can afford to. Just remember that it counts cards discarded, not discards used, so try to discard 5 cards as much as you can. Chicot, the Sharp-Tongued Clown. This joker disables all boss blinds. Chicot, or Jean-Antoine d'Angleterre, was the jester of King Henry III of France. Unlike practically all jesters in history, he would casually speak to the king as if he was a member of the town, which would get others thrown in prison or killed. Seemingly everyone thinks very lowly of this joker, but in my opinion it's one of the best and my personal favourite. The ability to completely shrug off any boss blind and focus on playing powerful hands is amazing, and makes it so you don't have to spend money on Director's Cut and Retcon. Though I admit it works better when it's negative, because otherwise a joker slot is being taken up by something that doesn't give mult or powerful benefit. Which leads me into the leader of the group and the final legendary joker, Perkeo, the guardian of the Great Heidelberg Tun. This joker creates a negative copy of a random consumable in your inventory at the end of the shop. Clemens Pankit, or Giovanni Clementi as some sources say, was the jester of great renown serving under Elector Palatine Charles III Philippe. His alleged claim to fame was his ability to drink 18 to 30 liters of wine a day, possibly as a result of a condition known as diabetes insipidus, in which the affected has an increased thirst and production of large amounts of urine, as much as 20 liters a day. Interesting stuff. Perkeo is without a doubt the fan favorite of the group. His ability to duplicate consumables combined with Blueprint and Brainstorm allow the player to make numerous copies of tarot cards and planet cards, making building your deck much easier. With that, we have finally looked at everything Balatro has to offer. Now let's move on to the ending so we can— oh, I had you there for a second, didn't I? Unless you're watching this for a second time, in which case, thank you. We still have one more big thing to cover. You've probably guessed it if you've played Balatro before, but to those of you who haven't, let me ask you a question. What happens when you beat Ante 8? Well, a screen shows up showing you a variety of stats from the run, cards played, discarded, purchased, etc. But look down and you'll see a big blue button. Click on it and something very special will happen. Ladies and gentlemen, today I show you the closest thing to divine power you can hope to achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, today I show you something that exceeds comprehension of your place in the universe. Ladies and gentlemen, today I show you. This is where most of the challenge in a run comes from. In Endless Mode, you don't need to be just a little stronger than the blind requirement, but should be exceeding it by multiple factors to last long enough. Endless Mode is structured like the normal game, with every 8 antes giving you a finisher boss blind to face off against. The difference being the score scaling for each ante. Normal antes work out the requirement for each blind using this equation here that uses the game's current ante, and a formula to round up the requirement to 2 digits. Endless Mode calculates the score requirement by raising the number representing the current ante to the power of the current ante to the power of 2. And what's the result of this? Well, without factoring green or purple stake, the blind requirement for Ante 8 is 50k. This jumps to 110k in Ante 9, 560k in Ante 10, and 7.2 million in Ante 11. As this continues scaling larger and larger, starting with Ante 14, every stake has a score requirement ending with the E notation. This equates to 10 to the power of whatever number comes after E, so 2.9 E13 is equivalent to 29 trillion. These numbers only expand larger and larger as you make your way through the antes, up until Ante 39, at which point the score has increased so much that it exceeds 1.8308, which is the largest number that can be represented using the double precision floating point format, also known as Float 64. Exceeding this causes the numbers to overflow into naneinf. This name is used by the game to represent numbers too big for the format to handle. It's at this point that the game won't be able to properly register your score, even if theoretically you can surpass it, meaning your endless run is more finite than you might imagine. Oh yeah, that's right, players can reach naneinf themselves. The simple method is to have an enormous amount of red seal steel kings in your hand at once by spamming cryptids farmed using Pokeo and then using Blueprint, Brainstorm, Baron and Mine to retrigger the cards multiple times. In one move, you can generate numbers around 10 octillion times larger than the length of our galaxy, turning a silly little card game into a device that pulls apart the fabric of reality, reaching leaps and bounds beyond what we can ever hope to reach, putting our fragile existence on full display as we are left to look up to the stars and weep! Another way you can phrase this is, big number is cool. And now I can truly say we have covered all of Balatro's mechanics. I didn't cover the shop in detail because it's self-explanatory, and if I have to spend a year writing this, you can figure it out yourself. Don't worry, I believe in you. Now that you, hopefully, understand everything on an individual scale, let's look at the bigger picture. So, hearing all these different mechanics, you might think that Balatro would be an overload of ideas, a mess of gameplay systems without correlation. Looking at these different mechanics all together, what looks incoherent connects together into this brilliant feedback loop. Remember, the most important aspects of this game are chips and malt. The majority of mechanics in Balatro revolve around these two concepts, which not only helps to reinforce the game's addictive loop of number generation, but gives the player endless ways to approach their runs. Even other mechanics that seemingly don't correlate to chips and malt wrap back around to reinforce this idea. Generating items to generate more chips and malt, making more money to buy more cards, jokers and items to generate chips and malt, and increasing hands and discards to find and play the best cards to generate chips and malt. Sure, sometimes certain jokers aren't effective for your particular strategy, but that gives you the opportunity to adapt and switch up your playstyle to compensate. This creates an addictive gameplay loop that can start and stop at your convenience. Overall, Balatro excels in creating depth through such a simple gameplay loop. It's a prime example of the strengths of indie games to do what conventional publishers aren't willing to take a chance on. While seemingly overwhelming, the game's mechanics are easy to understand, but with a bar of performance that gives those wanting to improve something to work towards. Balatro is simple, but complex. Hello whoever is watching, thank you for checking out this video. If you're wondering why I sound different, I'm on a new microphone, so that's pretty neat. It's a Shure MV6. Shure MV6. I had a lot of fun making this video. There was definitely a couple issues that I can see, but I'm just glad that I made the video at all, because this thing took a while to make, especially with first year of uni and such. I really want to make more stuff like this, and I'm currently a month away from my second year of uni, so I have a little time to probably get started on another project. If you're interested, I'm studying games design and production at Adelaide Uni. If you're a UniSA or University of Adelaide student, you know the whole school merger thing's been a nightmare, so that just delayed this even more, but it seems like everything's on track now for the most part. I'm probably going to do Voices of the Void next. That's something that I want to really analyze and make a video on. I think it's a very interesting game, and I think you'll find it interesting too if you already don't know about it. If you have any questions, leave a comment and I'm happy to answer them. I doubt there'll be that many, but you never know. Anyways, see you next time, if I do make another video, and have a good 2026.